Shalom Aleichem. Now our topic is a longer topic than usual, a longer title than usual. Who gets the $10,000 found in the pocket of the second-hand coat? We're drawing on the book V'Ha'arevna, which is by Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein Shlita. Should live and be well. I just noticed that last week we quoted from Rav Dayan Spitz's Sefer. This week from Rav Zilberstein's. Next week, God willing, we'll be quoting from a it's an online framework called Din Online, which I think is Rav Fleischman, who has a base din in Yerushalayim. So these are all contemporary people who are all building on something related to the Rambam. Today, it's going to be a very interesting halacha l'maaseh question, where the source, one of the key sources, is the Rambam's understanding of a Gemara in Bava Metzia. Okay, without further ado, now I one more ado, and I like the way he presented it in the Sefer. It's actually Talmidim of his who are presenting it, so we'll be following the order of the Sefer itself. This is his Sefer. It's actually on Parshat Nitzavim, and it is based on a pasuk from the Haftarah. Sos asis b'Hashem, tagel nafshi belokai, ki hilbishani bigdei yesha. He clothed me with clothing of salvation. Me'il tzedakah ya'ateni, and he has me wearing a coat of tzedakah. So the case that the story opens with is in what we have, what we refer to as a gemach. The gemach is Rashi Tevos. It's an abbreviation of Gemilut Chasadim, and it is an institution which is extremely popular in Jewish communities, which is free loans. Now it's free loans of money, but there's so many free loans of things, and one of the most popular kinds of gemachs is clothing, and often there's they provide clothing to people at a very symbolic price, or else not at all, but usually it's at a symbolic price. Now, people donate clothing to this gemach, and they don't take any money for it. And then people come to the gemach. The people who host the gemach, they set up all the clothing in some kind of an orderly fashion, so that people are able to come in and find good clothing. And they usually keep a certain standard of what kind of clothing they accept. So theoretically, a person who is not a person of means would be able to go to a gemach and get a nice set of normal looking clothing. Okay, somebody named who is named by the author as Reuven. So he goes into a gemach, and he wants a coat. It's winter's coming up, and he, as somebody would naturally do, puts his hands in the pocket of the coat and finds dollar bills, but not just $1 bills, but a serious wad of multi-dollar bills, which amounts to $10,000. Wow. So the most likely thing was that these $10,000 belonged to the person who donated the coat. So they tried to dig up the owner of this coat, and it simply didn't happen. Meaning this was one coat of many that were donated, and they didn't find it. So Reuven, the the one who is getting the coat, who got the coat. So so he says, "Well, this is my lucky day. I got a coat that had within it $10,000." Now, um, Reuven got it from this gemach, this this secondhand clothing, uh, free or nominal price secondhand clothing distributor, and it's in his house. What often does, I once went to one of these places. They uh, um, they set it up really nicely in a certain section of their house. Um, there is one of the organizations in our neighborhood, so they set up a secondhand clothing shop. Okay, that's an organizational kind of a thing, but many people do this in their home, and they open it up at certain times, um, in a certain section of their house. So the as generous and as much of a bal chesed as Shimon, the owner of the house, and the one whose gemach it is, as generous and as nice as he is, he says, "Wait a second, this coat was in my possession, and therefore the money is mine." So here comes a very interesting shaila to Rav Zilberstein's door. Who gets the $10,000 found in the coat of the in the secondhand coat that Reuven got from the gemach? Okay. Um, Now, any knee-jerk reactions somebody would like to share right away? I'm looking in the chat. You can also unleash your microphones if you want. Okay, so let's see where Rav Zilberstein took it. Now he's going to give some of the background information, and then eventually we'll plug it in. So background information number one. Why does Shimon have a case at all? The answer is there is a kinyan which we refer to as kinyan chatzer. Chatzer is a courtyard. It's learned out. It's derived from a verse with regards to theft, where the Torah says, if somebody is was asked to watch somebody else's thing, and he when the owner came back to say, "Okay, I'm back. Can I have my thing back that I asked you to watch?" He said it was stolen. Okay, but what if it ends up being found in the watchman's house? So if it is found, if the stolen object was found in his own house, he's got to pay double like a thief. Okay, that's a watchman turned thief who has to pay double. Now, the pasuk says, if it will be found in his hand, biado. Says the Gemara in Bava Metzia, this expression, himatzei timatzei, it will be surely found. Well, those are extra words. That includes not only his hand, but his domain, like his courtyard, the roof of his house. Sha'af bahem konet agnevad. Even through them, he acquires the stolen object. So now, this applies. Let's say somebody's animal wanders into the neighbor's yard, and he locks it in order to steal it. So that would be an example of doing geneva, doing theft through your courtyard. Now, most of the time, thieves are going to try a different approach, but this inyan of this kinyan Chutzer works more commonly in acquiring something or getting something from hefker, something that is unknown. Let's say something falls into your courtyard. Um, so and you have your courtyard acquire it for you, so you acquire it. Okay, so that's this kinyan. Again, this is not the world's most common kinyan, uh, but um, it's there. It's there. Uh, it might be used for transferring a present. Uh, it comes up for giving a get, um, and it comes up, and in our context, for acquiring something from Hefker. Okay, so that's step number one is kinyan chatzer. Now, um, last week we dealt with a topic, and actually this segues with last week's topic. Um, the the Mishnah in Baba Kama and Baba Metzia says Chafemud Beis. It says Matzah Bagala v'Kosel Yashan Harelu Shalo. If you find something in a pile of rocks or a mound or an old wall, so it belongs to the finder. Now, the the wall or the pile of rocks belongs to somebody, and the finder still finds something in somebody else's old ancient wall. So let's say you're walking amongst the fields of Israel, and you're passing by an ancient wall, and you find something in that ancient wall. Now, that's what the Mishnah says. Now, it's an interesting point, because maybe it belongs to the person who owns the property. So says the Gemara, well, mipnei sheyachol lomar lo shalom oroim hem. The finder can say it belonged to the Amorites. Now, Amorites are the people who lived in the land of Israel before the Jews came. Well, that's quite a while back. That's like an archaeological find. So the Gemara asks an obvious question: Atu Emoroim matzni Yisrael no matzni? Amorites hid things in the walls, and Israelites don't. In other words, this house has been in Jewish hands for generations. Why do you assume that this was from the Canaanite period and not from the Jews that were later on? Answers the Gemara, 4 words, lo tzricha de shatich tvei. It is very shatich. Now, shin tav yud chaf, Rashi says it was very, very rusty. It was very rusty. Rambam's lashon is a little different. The Rambam's girsa, the commentaries point out that the Rambam's girsa was probably not the shatich tvei, but the shatit tvei, with a tav at the end, or a sav at the end, and what it means is very deep. It was very deep. So as we're going to see later on in the Rambam says it was like ancient treasures are found very deep down. Whereas Rashi says, like something that is very, very ancient is very, very rusty. Okay, that's source number 2. Source number 1 is kinyan chatzer. Source number 2 is the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Now, Rishonim, many Rishonim asked the same question. Wait a second. This is not a Hefker wall, or it's not that somebody's walking in no man's land and he sees an ancient wall and he finds something in the ancient wall. I mean, barring modern Israel, where we might have an issue with the authorities, the antiquities authorities, Rashut Atikot, but if you're walking somewhere which is ownerless, so then that's Hefker, and there would be no chidush at all to say that it belongs to the finder. The whole point of the Mishnah is that it belongs to the finder, even though the wall belongs to somebody. So the Rishonim, welcome to F21 Pro. So the Rishonim, they are very puzzled why it is that even though this, let's say, ancient metal object belonged to maybe it's silver, maybe who knows, maybe it's gold, this ancient object belonged to the Amorites, but why didn't the homeowner's courtyard acquire it for him? And the halacha is Chatzer shel adam koneh afilu shelo midato, that a person's courtyard can acquire for him even not with his knowledge. So if there's something, if somebody has a, let's say, a chatzer hamishtameret, he has a courtyard which is literally watched, meaning a courtyard fenced in. And let's say something flew in. It was a very, very, very super windy day, and something flies in to his yard, and it's something from Hefker, something that was ownerless. So his courtyard acquires it for him. Now, ask the Rishonim, why if we say that, oh, it was from the Amorites, why should that make a difference? Wouldn't the owners, whatever Israelite owners followed, and up to the present Israelite owner, Jewish owner, so wouldn't his courtyard acquire for him shalom midato, even without his knowledge? So that's the question. That's the big question that the Rishonim ask here. So Tosfos's answer is Yesh lamar de'ein chatzer koneh bedavar sheyachol liyot shelo yimtzenu leolam k'mo hacha sheha mutzna be'ovi hakotel. A courtyard doesn't acquire for somebody something that he might never find, like here, which is something that is hidden in the wall. In other words, when we say that a person's courtyard acquires for him even without his knowledge, what we mean is the things that a person normally would imagine would be coming into his courtyard. So something that, some Hefker thing that flies into his courtyard, or something that some animal that wanders into his courtyard and the gate closes behind it. But a Hefker animal, let's say. But something that he would never imagine would be in his courtyard. Well, there he never had any intention about that specific thing. The way we explained it last time was that a person might have intent in a general way, but not in a specific way, that this thing would come into his courtyard. So there's not a magical thing that your courtyard acquires everything that is within it, but rather we assume that the person wants his courtyard to acquire the normal things. We assume that the person is thinking anything normally that would come up in my courtyard is mine. But something that might never be found was never part of somebody's intent. Kinyan Chatzar doesn't work for that. Okay? Now, let's just read Rav Zilberstein's explanation. Masbirim Tosot shechefetz kazeh shekichol nera ba'alav lo yuchal lemotzo leolam. This kind of object, that the way it normally seems is that his owner, the owner would never find it. Even though it is within his courtyard, he doesn't acquire it through courtyard acquisition. Rak mitziyos, meaning found objects, that he's able to ascertain about them. They are absorbed by his chatzer and they're acquired. Now, What's the reason? So he said, why should your courtyard acquire for you? So the two kinds of explanations that come up are your courtyard is like your hand. That fits in very well with the pasuk. Im himatei timatzei biyado hagneva shnayim yishalem. That the courtyard is an extension of your hand, or like your shaliach, or it's like your agent. So so it's something that is watching objects for you on your behalf, meaning you can't get there, or your hand is too small. It's like an extension of your hand. It's like a large hand. Or you can't make it to Baltimore to acquire a piece of property. Your agent goes on your behalf. You give him power of attorney. Now, your courtyard is like your agent. Fine. Now, a courtyard that is not protected. It doesn't hold things within it. It's not fenced in. Let's say an animal would wander in. It would wander out. It is not a protected courtyard. Well, that doesn't acquire on your behalf because it doesn't have that. It doesn't serve an extension of your hand, or it doesn't serve as your agent, because whereas your hand would hold on to something, your courtyard can't hold on to something. Whereas your shaliach, your agent, would acquire the object in a way where it holds on to it. A chatzar mishtameret, an unwatched courtyard, an unprotected courtyard, doesn't serve like a yad or like a shaliach, like a hand, like an extension of one's hand, or like a person's agent. It's not connected with him the way a chatzar mishtameret would be. Similarly, he's by way of analogy, Rav Zilberstein suggests that maybe an object, Tosfos is saying, an object that the owner would never find. Well, his chutzner isn't going to, that object is not connected to him through his chutzner, because he might never find it at all. So now, the Rambam gives a different explanation. Tosfos focuses on the limits of kinyan chutzner, that your courtyard is limited in what it's able to acquire. And the same way a courtyard that is not protected can't acquire for you, a courtyard can acquire things that you might never find, because a courtyard would only serve like an extension of your hand. So only things that you would likely get, or your agent, your non-human agent style thing, domain. So also, it would not acquire something that you might not ever have. You might never find. The Rambam has a different explanation. The Rambam says, and let's read the words of the Rambam. Hamotzi matmon begala b'kotel yashan. He quotes our Mishnah, Harelu shalo. It's his. It's the finder's. Shani omer, for I'll say, shagoyim v'kadmonim heim. It was from these ancient Gentiles. V'hu shimtzauto mata mata. That's only if he finds it very far down. That's the Rambam's understanding of what the Gemara is saying in the conclusion. The shatit tfei kederach kol matmonot hayishanot. Just like all old treasures, that treasure is found very deep down. Avalim marima dvarim shematmon chadash. But if it appears to be a new thing, afilu nistapek lo adavar. Even if there's any doubt about it, harei zelo yiga b'hem. He shouldn't touch them. Shema munachim im sham. Maybe they're placed there on purpose. Now, the Rambam. So the Rambam is based on our Mishnah and the Gemara on it. And the Rambam asked the kasha that all the Rishonim asked, which is, Hoel v'chatzero shel adam konelo shelo midato. Since a person's a courtyard acquires for him even without his explicit knowledge, lama lo yikna bal hachatzer ze hamatmon shebetoch hakotel hayashan. Why shouldn't the owner of the courtyard acquire this treasure that is in the old wall? Afal bishul shel Amorim. Let's say even though it was of the Canaanite period, the Amorites from way before, from the generations before the Jews got to the land of Israel, and then this found object will belong to the person whose courtyard it is. And then if somebody comes by and he finds it, some scavenger, he would have to give it to the owner of the courtyard. So the Rambam is asking the exact same question that Tosfos has answered, but his answer is different. The Rambam's answer is, it's not known to him, the owner of the courtyard, or anybody else. That treasure is lost to him and lost to everybody. Meaning it's somebody that is lost to the whole world. It belongs to the finder. And the Rambam says he quotes the pasuk that the Gemara learns it from. The Gemara says, it's lost from one person, and you find it. Misha avuda mimenu umitsuya. It says tovad mimenu. It's lost to its owner, but it's findable by others. Yatzazo shenafla layam shavuni mimenu makol adam, as opposed to something, let's say, found in the sea, and then it gets washed up somewhere else, and somebody else finds it. You find something washed up by the sea, so you can keep it, even if it has a siman on it, even if it has some identifying mark. Why? That's an example of an aveda, a lost object, that you're not obligated to return, because it's asher tovad mimenu matzata. You're only obligated to return things that are lost from the owner, but they're still findable by others. But something, when it was in the sea, or let's say there was a flood, it was lost to everybody during that period, and it's connected with its owner is cut. So says the Rambam, Kal v'chomer lematmon kadmoni shelo haya shalom me'olam. Certainly something that was an ancient treasure, this primordial treasure, that was never his at all, and it's lost from him in the whole world, so certainly his courtyard doesn't acquire it. In other words, if something that was owned by somebody is lost to that person when there's a flood, or when it falls in the sea, and even if somebody else would find it, it would wash up on the shore somewhere, the finder doesn't have to look for the owner. He can keep it because it was avuda mimenu mikol adam. It was lost from the owner and everybody. Its connection to its owner is cut, and therefore it is in effect hefker. Similarly, this treasure is in the same situation, and it's a kal v'chomer, because it was this Amorite treasure nobody knew about, and if something that was not findable at all, if something, by being not findable at all, in a state of being in the sea or in the flood, the owner who we knew owned it loses his control over the object and loses his ownership over the object, certainly something that was never owned, a kinyan chatzar is not going to acquire it. So there's no kal v'chomer here. So there's a kal v'chomer here. Excuse me. That's the Rambam's kal v'chomer. So the Rambam says that if something that was owned loses ownership through being in a place where it was avuda mimenu makol adam, it was lost from everybody, certainly your courtyard is not going to acquire something anew that was lost from you and lost from everybody. So that's the Rambam's understanding of why this treasure is not acquired by the chatzir. So now, here comes the plug-in. לאור הדברים יש להסיק כי בשאלותינו היות והממון היה מונח בתוך כיס הבגד, הרי שאין בעלי הגמח עתידין למוצאו, שכן הוא מוחבא ומכוסה. suggests, Rav Zilverberg, that this Rambam could be applied, this Gemara, but this Rambam could be applied to our $10,000 in the pocket of the old coat. Who would have thought that there's $10,000 in an old coat? That's like never crossed anybody's mind. The owner of the gemach, it never crossed his mind that there's going to be $10,000. That's something that was in effect lost from everybody, not in anybody's consciousness, and is no different than buried treasure whose owner never acquired it through his chutzner. So also Shimon never acquired it through his chutzner. So that's the reason why he wants to suggest that the finder, Reuven, would be able to keep it. Now, not so simple. Why? Because usually when you are setting up the gemach, so it is not uncommon. This is a practical application issue. Again, conceptually, the Rambam's applying the Rambam would make sense, but practically it might not be so simple, because isn't it more standard practice to check the pockets of these secondhand coats? Like, you don't want somebody to get a new secondhand coat that has somebody's old tissues in it, or a candy wrapper. So, or like a leftover receipt from filling up gas, petrol. So that's a little bit of a hesitation. Now there is another side on the favor of the finder, that maybe the courtyard is a chatzer she'ena mishtameret. Maybe the courtyard is an unprotected chatzer. Why? Because Shimon has people coming in to his gemach, coming in and coming out. So it's kind of an open house. At least that section of his house is an open house. So maybe bichlal it's a chatzer she'ena mishtameret, and his chatzer wouldn't acquire for him. A chatzer, and then we might be able to apply what the Rambam says about a store, that the store owner's chatzer doesn't acquire, because it's a chatzer she'eno mishtameret. It's not something that is protected, because there's people coming in and out all the time, even though he owns the store. Now, that also is not so simple, he says in a footnote, because there are times when the owner closes the doors of the gemach. It's not open 24/7, 24/6. It's closed some of the time when they set things up. They usually have hours for these places, so it's not simply a chatzer she'eno mishtamer. A third reason why we might favor the finder as opposed to the owner of the gemach or the owner of the building that the gemach is located in it, is that we have a principle of Yeush shalom midat lo aviyeush. What does that mean? One of the most famous disputes in the Talmud is the dispute between Abaye and Rava about Yeush Shelo Midat. Now, Yeush means giving up hope on an object. And when an owner gives up hope on an object of ever regaining his object, let's say somebody, a 1 shekel coin drops on the street. So a finder could pick it up. Why? Because the owner gives up hope of ever being able to claim it. What is he going to say? I lost a 1 shekel coin. Prove it's yours. How is he going to prove it's yours? Every 1 shekel coin looks alike. He has no identifying mark on it. So when somebody has no identifying mark on a lost object, so the finder can keep it. When a lost object has a siman on it, it has an identifying mark. So then the owner isn't mityayish. The owner doesn't give up hope on ever regaining it, and therefore the finder has the mitzvah of hashavas aveda, has the mitzvah of returning the lost object. Now, what happens though, and that's the machlokas in the Gemara, is if the owner would know that he lost it, so he would give up hope, but he doesn't even know that he lost it. So, suggests Rav Zilberstein, perhaps when the person gave the coat to the gemach, he didn't know yet that his $10,000 was in the pocket, and he hadn't yet given up hope. So the owner of the chatzer is not going to acquire through kinyan chatzer. But after it's been sitting around, and the finder later on, the purchaser of the with the nominal fee from the gemach of this coat, he finds it. So maybe by his time, it's already after Yeush. That's what, and the halacha is that Yeush shalom midat lo avi Yeush. That the this situation where the owner didn't yet know that he lost it, but had he known, he would have given up hope. So we rule that that's not classified as Yesh. We paskin, and this is one of the 6 exceptions in the Shas where we paskin like Abai against Rava. So Rav Zilberstein suggests 3 different reasons why the finder would be able to keep it. Number 1, based on the Rambam, the money in the coat pocket is avudam mimenu mikol adam. It's lost from everybody, because who would ever have thought about that? And so a person's courtyard doesn't acquire from him. Number 2, maybe his courtyard is a chatzer she'eno mishtameret. It's an unprotected courtyard. And number 3, maybe it came to the owner, to his court. Even if it did come to his courtyard, maybe it came before, in a situation of Yeush Shalom Midat, which is not considered Yeush, whereas the finder, it would have been after Yeush. Now, each one of those has a certain difficulty with it, because maybe don't gemach directors check through the pockets usually, and in this case he didn't, but usually they do. Number 2, a chatzer, a gemach is a chatzer she'eno mishtamer. What about the times when the gemach is closed and they're doing inventory, or they're setting things up? And number 3, I would add, maybe it's still Yeush Shalom Midat. Maybe the owner still doesn't know that his $10,000 is lost, even when Reuben finds it. Okay, whatever the case, I just want to end with Rav Zilberstein's drasha. We have a situation of a poor person who turned into a rich person immediately. Again, if you can define $10,000 for a pretty bad a radical transformation, because somebody who was so poor that he had to get his coat from a secondhand coat gemach. By the way, it might be one of the things they do is secondhand. They open up secondhand clothing stores for everybody, for rich and poor, so as the poor shouldn't think that they're this special place for them. So that's gemachs are places where anybody might be able to find it. It also takes away the embarrassment factor. If quotation marks, financially normal people would buy things from a secondhand store. Again, a very reduced rate. So segueing from discussing this poor person becoming like a rich person, he quotes a very interesting statement from a sefer from somebody from the tradition of Jerba. There was a Rav, Argona Tzadik, Rabbi Shimon HaKohen Zatzal, who was a dayan in Jerba. Now, Jerba is an island off the coast of, I think, Algeria. I'm almost sure, um, which was an island with a lot of Kohanim, and they have a very ancient tradition, and and I don't know if there's still Jews in Jerba, but there's definitely many that came to the land of Israel. I know of a yeshuv Berechia, which has a lot of people from Jerba, and sure enough, there's a lot of Kohanim, and there were some great Talmidei Chachamim there and Tzaddikim. So he says, so he tells the following story. There was a poor and a rich Jew. The poor person was going door to door, and he comes to the rich person and starts opening up his shaking his hand with the coins in it, like asking for a donation. So the rich person says, "Not now. I'm involved. I'm busy. I'm busy now." Said the rich miser, "I'm busy now. I'm counting my value. I'm counting my net worth there, and God forbid that I should mistake, and you're gonna mess up my calculations." So he's telling the poor person, "Don't bother me with donations right now. I'm calculating how much I'm worth. I'm counting my money." So the poor person liked the idea, and so he starts counting his money. So he starts and going. I got 10 agorot, 20 agorot, 70 agorot, 80 agorot, 1 shekel, 2 shekels, 2.5 shekels. So he starts coming, and the rich person looks at him like with an amused look, and he says, "This poor person is just imitating me, but I'm counting millions, and he's counting agorot." So he says to him, "You're counting how much you're missing in order to become rich." So the poor person says, "No, no, no. I've already clarified that." So you've already clarified the difference. What's the difference between you and a rich person? So the poor person says, "Oh, let's hear what you said. What's the difference between us?" So the poor person says, "I've come to the conclusion that we're not so distant. It's only 10 gold pieces. That's a big difference between us." And he says, "You should know. I know this from experts." The rich person says, "What are you talking about? What do you mean? What do you mean?" So he says like this. He says, I talked to the undertaker. I talked to the Chevra Kadisha in our town who bury people, and he said there's really only two different kinds of shrouds. There's rich people's shrouds and poor people's shrouds. And the difference between rich people's shrouds and poor people's shrouds is only 10 shekels, only 10 pieces, 10 silver pieces, 10 gold pieces. So in other words, in this world, there's your net worth is amazing. Mine is counted in agorot. But when we leave this world, there's no big difference between us. And of course, as Chazal say, when a person leaves this world, ein melavin lo le'adam lo kesef lo zahav lo avanim tovot u'margaliot. When a person passes away, his silver, gold, or precious stones and pearls don't escort him. El Torah u'mitzvot u'masim tovim bilvad. Pirkei Vav Tet. The Chachmei HaMusar make a drasha on our Parshiyot Shavua. Ki teitzei, when you leave the world, and then ki tavo, then you're going to come to the world to come. After ki teitzei, then ki tavo, you're going to come to the world to come. Atem nitzavim, you're going to be standing in front of the courtyard of the court in heaven, and then vayelach, where are you going to go to? Hazinu, if you listened to the words of the Torah, you learned, you did, you put it into practice, you lived according to the Torah, then vizos habracha. Then you're going to be having the blessed result, and you're going to be in the world to come. Anyways, that's his drasha. So, in short, with some hesitations, Rav Zilberstein rules in favor. Again, this is written up by his Talmidim, but Rav Zilberstein rules in favor of the finder of the 10,000 in the coat pocket, with hesitations for the three reasons. But the main reason being that that Rambam, that the money was avuda mimenu mikol adam, and his chatzer is his courtyard. Shimon's courtyard doesn't acquire for him. Maybe it's even a chatzer sheina mishtameret. Maybe it's a yesev yerushalom midat. But the main thing seems to be that that his courtyard doesn't acquire for him something that nobody would have ever expected to have been there, and that's an application, a practical application of the Rambam's opinion. Next week, God willing, I'd like to do one other practical Dine Mamonos case based on an interesting Rambam, and that is when can you keep? What if there's a discarded chair, like a nice office chair, but like not new, but a discarded office chair. Somebody, let's say, upgraded and left an office chair by the garbage bins. So there's a Rambam that seems to say that it's not so simple that you can just take that. So that's what we're going to discuss. A very interesting Rambam about when we can assume that somebody has discarded something to the degree where a finder can keep it. Okay, thanks for joining us today.